about that. But we do, we have a lot of people, and I was sending that out. I believe I sent it to you, but I know things get lost. A lot of stuff goes in my spam, so that could be happening. But more than happy to put that information in the link so we can all get it that way. It's really good plain language information. A lot of our folks on the streets are persons with disabilities or mental health conditions, and it makes it easier. So when they are getting swept and they protest, that they know the rights.
Sounds good. I'm not supposed to be moderating, so forgive me. I'm always interested.
I'm sorry, who's moderating? And I thought you were. My apologies. Who's ever moderating? I didn't use the hand raise. Sorry.
No. Rains or Carol, they're like abdicating from this.
Hey, we're just promoting a different style of meeting. We're saying, hey, we can relax, we can enjoy each other's company. And now that we're recording, we can say welcome to Great Panthers of Berkeley in the East Bay. September speaker meeting.
Is it okay if I put that information in the chat for everyone?
Please.
Sure.
Information is always welcome. That helps connect us to more opportunities.
And then the other,
we don't want to be a bottleneck.
In Berkeley, I sent an email to you, the class action on remote attending meetings. We actually moved it a little bit forward, and the city agreed for commissions and boards that a person could request accommodations for remote access. And the PR went out yesterday. I sent it to you, Betsy. I also let Kelly Hammergren know.
Good.
I think,
and that's a big thing. There's only 3 of us, and what we added to it was giving more room so we could eventually make this easier on the public to participate. My whole thing when I was involved with the class action is to make sure people can participate, and remote access should be utilized. I know that for people without disabilities, we have further to go. I'm totally on board with that, because I believe we should be using technology for people to participate. Otherwise, other people are going to be making the decisions for us.
Thanks, Helen. I do see Julia. I think you said hello, and Patrick. We're just another minute, a few minutes, and then is there anyone else who hasn't spoken yet to share a little bit about what's going on with you today or this week?
Nora has her hand raised, and Maria.
Well, they've both spoken. That's why I was asking some other, not that they can't do it again, but that's fine.
All right, just really quickly, I could only hear Helen mention something about the people on the street knowing their rights. Let me tell you, I know my rights, and I even had a lawyer there, and it didn't matter. It did not matter. And this has happened over and over and over again. And the tragedy is, people are not garbage. Their property is not garbage. And when they are bulldozed or shuffled around, they lose their medical care from street medicine. They lose what little they have. They lose their future or present and future shelter. It is barbaric. And I would love to spread as much positive information around. So that's not a diss on what you said, Helen. I'm just pointing out that obviously we need to know more. But then it's got to matter, because we are required to follow every, even non-existing and or even not understood laws, but they continue to break them. So I'm just saying.
Maria, yeah, I don't think you're saying anything negative here. This is what happens. The more we know to protect ourselves and each other, the better. And often, yes, the police and the people in charge do not follow the rules, or they strategize. That happens to me, and my work has been for the last 35 years of doing this. And even recently with what we got, I had to deal with a lot of pushback. So I absolutely hear you.
And so I'm just
on board
trying
with the
to,
frustration, totally, and I totally agree with you.
I'm just trying to
you know.
raise the level of alert because we are witnessing people being brutalized all
Yeah.
over the planet and in Berkeley. And so, you know,
And I
like,
hear the,
all right, bless you. I just love you. And again, I had a
hear,
clear
the,
stretch. Okay, thank you.
I hear the alert, and I'm saying I hear you, and I agree with you. I work with community, not the other direction. Thanks.
And Helen, I was posted in chat the text of what Maria, the flyer that Maria sent us. Stop the sweeps, housed and unhoused come together. Where do we go, Berkeley? Berkeley plans to run their homeless out of town. We have other plans. Protest/rally, Saturday, September 28th, 12 o'clock p.m.
I've put
MLK
out,
Civic Center Park, Berkeley.
yeah, Andrea sent information to me as well, so I've been trying to get that out. Our church is doing a lot of work and efforts. Unfortunately, you're not seeing me. I had a setback in my treatment, so I haven't been able to be in community, but I can assure you, I'm doing everything from what I can do. That's why I do a lot of the communications, because I've got a disability that I get setbacks. So with that being said, I put that out to areas of justice areas, to different churches or whatnot too, Maria. So we're here helping each other. That's how I'm working here.
Hello, Julia.
That's
great. Thanks.
Norma had her hand up. Hello, Julia. Hi, Julia. Yes, hello. Just say hello. You came in.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah. I have a table in my house. It's been about close to 20 years that I rescued from a disposal behavior at some week-long demonstration in San Francisco that I assisted at. And I had a truck carrying things back and forth, and they were going to throw this table into the dump. The table is a fantastically gorgeous oak table. Beautiful. It's a big table, and it's here because I had a truck and could pick it up and take it home and save it from all the other furniture that had been donated to the event to establish a warehouse full of living space for the demonstrators that week. The other thing I wanted to complain about is I was listening to a program on TV that was talking in detail about the use of electronics, for example, to be able to grab hold of the steering wheel of your car and shake it and cause problems. And that's only minor. What they're talking about being able to affect through the malicious use of electronics leaves you gasping.
Oh, yeah. It's incumbent upon all of us to be aware of what's going in.
Well, you know,
our
it doesn't
systems
help
and-
to be aware. That's the problem. We can know that forever. It's just a horror that we've brought on ourselves, along with the world is being drowned as well as burned, and they told us so. I don't know how to
Indeed.
deal with that. This is huge.
Please moderate. James.
Yes. Oh, yeah. So let's.
Oops, sorry.
Thank you, Norma. Yes, that's why we gather. That's what we can do in building awareness and collective capacity and learning from others about responses, collective as well as individual. And so I really welcome everybody here, empowering each other together. Betsy has a particular report that I wanted to make sure she was in a position to give because there is big progress in the world of social housing on the national front that some of you may have seen some news about this week. Betsy, are you in position to give a quick report about that?
Yeah. Our guest speaker is able to join us in half an hour, so we should have time for a little discussion as well. So this is a little more of the report that I made to the our National Gray Panthers Housing Committee. Carol also joined us, and Jan BenDor, who's our speaker, is the chair of that particular subcommittee at the national level. So first, let me see about sharing, and hopefully you'll be able to see. So I think you may remember previously in
May?
talks, I hope so, in May, and maybe
It
again.
looks like you're
just-
sharing the wrong window, Betsy.
Yeah, I don't even see it. That's very odd. Okay.
By the way, Margot
So-
Smith joined us. Welcome, Margot.
Yeah. All right. So, yeah, Margot, I'm really happy you're here, and maybe some of this will be useful in your politicking. So if you recall, I mentioned a group called Alliance for Housing Justice, which seems to have launched with California organizations, New York City, and national groups. What's just happening? Why is that? What just happened?
You clicked on something, hit command
Yeah.
back arrow or go back. Or close that tab. It's the tab just to the left of that.
There it is. So
There.
this is something I really would like us, I'm hoping to persuade our national Gray Panthers to join this as more than just our chapter, although our chapter certainly, I would love it if we joined. But for now, these organizations have really apparently been talking and spending some time and money to really write up what an agenda, as a housing justice agenda looks like, so that, because the prevailing thinking historically is that you really, if you want to see some major paradigm shift or major change, like passing civil rights legislation, there needs to be a very multi-sectoral, multiracial, multi-class coalition of groups that are really working not just on the legislation and passing it, but are there as an infrastructure to make it happen. So this Center for Popular Democracy is a recent group out of the Bernie Sanders campaign when he withdrew in 2016. And they had a different name for a while, but just so you know, Housing Justice for All New York, I don't know, but it's very, it's New York City has a lot of people working on these issues of both tenants' rights and what kind of housing we need to have from the public sector, what kind of support. Housing Now California is a group that I'm hoping we will join. I've joined personally, but they're having monthly phone calls, and I'll share some information about them. National Housing Law Project. These are all kind of think tank legal advocates, but the Right to the City Alliance is basically a grassroots, people of color led national group that has, like, for example, deep roots out of Detroit, back when Detroit was basically being sold off because of the real estate crisis in 2008. And they essentially, the city was under receivership, was under emergency management. And Jan can actually speak to that, since she did a whole video series about the Looting Detroit is the name. So this is a group that has also been joined by Tenants Together here in California. So if you were to look up Alliance for Housing Justice, there's there's the link. I'll put it in chat. What's happened is that this group is basically or members of the groups that belong to it are masterminding and have been built up a base to get this legislation that in both the states where they're operating, like California, and I can share a little bit about what's coming up here it's not going to be unfamiliar to you all, or at least not to Julia at the tenants union. But what's interesting is the synchronicity and conversation with the recent Home Act. Here we go. So Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of the Bronx, and Tina Smith, who's from Minnesota, have put forward a very ambitious piece of housing legislation. And it's premised on, let me just move, it's premised on housing as a human right. And it is critical of the market approach that's dominated 20 years of our housing policy here in the US, or 30 years, or maybe you could actually go back to the very beginning of the first 1930s Housing Act, which rapidly became a kind of vehicle for-profit developers, builders, and whatnot. So they're being sort of, has anybody actually been listening to any of the Democratic, I don't know, pundits or something? Because it's already been kind of shredded a little bit. Rains was, or anyone else, I can't actually see your faces, but if there is someone who's seen it, you can go on the YouTubes, or you can go on the news and hear more about it. And let's see, let me. So here's where I'm trying to get to. I've tried to set it all up for sharing. So in addition to the sort of editorials that were released with this with this bill that's been introduced in Congress, it may die an early death, or it may end up being picked up as kind of the left wing of Kamala Harris's housing platform, which let me stop sharing and go back to my Zoom. So they actually this bill has been analyzed by people at one of the New York universities and at UC Berkeley, not interestingly, not out of their housing center, the Turner Center it's called, but out of I have to get back over to Chrome. Yeah. So this yeah, let me put this up. So their analysis is, hey, the entire cost of the program, which calls for building, I think, 3 million funding support for 1.2 million total new social housing units. And these are defined as permanently affordable units built with government money and then handed over essentially to a not-for-profit, like a community land trust, like potentially a housing cooperative, in other words, the residents, and any kind of long-term permanent affordable housing developers. So it is, or the public housing authorities, if they get back into business. It also eliminates the Faircloth Amendment, which was kind of snuck into a budget bill a decade or two ago, and basically says there will be no new net public housing units in America. And instead, for-profit and nonprofit developers are expected to provide everything that's needed. Margot, do you have a quick question? You're muted. Oh, yeah. There you go.
I'm looking at the definitions of affordable on your slide there, and that sounds really good for a lot of places, but in Alameda County, our affordable housing at 100% of area median income. Go back to your original slide there.
It's a document, and I'm just scrolling down.
Yeah, well,
So
okay, top right there. Okay, it says 70% at 0 to 50% area median income. That's the key problem here in Alameda County, because our area median income is $139,000. So that means that affordable housing is for people who earn less than $100,000 a year, and that's considered affordable. And low-income housing is for people who earn $84,000 a year. So when you read these things here, for some places it sounds really good because their area median income is a lot lower than Alameda and Contra Costa County. But when you look at it for this area, like it says 375 units would be available at, say, 50% of the area median income. That means that it's for people who earn less than $50,000 a year. Well, $50,000 a year is a lot of money if your minimum wage person is earning $30,000 a year. Okay, you're muted.
I'd like to interrupt because obviously the devil is in the details. And just to be clear, this is not going to solve the number of units that are needed to make sure there's plenty of choices, safe and legal, affordable units. But this actually puts a commitment of the government, if in fact this bill passes, that it will finance a total of 1.2 total new social housing units. We need a lot more in this country. Sorry, I don't have the number in my head, but over half of them will be affordable to households between 0 to 50% of area median income. And I mean, the point is though, hello? Do we have,
that's my 10-minute timer.
Oh, thank you. So I just want to say that to really turn the ship, this is just, it's like a flare going up saying, hey, something's going. That's how I interpret this. This is not the solution, but it's the first time that there's a commitment that we're not going to focus solely on tax credits and for-profit corporate investors. And we're not going to just focus on the federal government. You know, this to me sets up a model that has to be replicated in every city and county that wants to address housing justice. And so this one is, and here's some information. I put the link in the chat, and we could ask, do we want to, in fact, Gray Panther National Committee is asking itself, do we actually want to endorse this bill? That said, it is not the end all and be all of what's going on. So I wanted to just share the second half of what I think of as good news. And that's, this is the federal flash, but every state that has a housing justice coalition or groups that are organizing for tenants' rights are also working local in state level. And in the Bay Area, we need to understand who, if we want to, Gray Panthers wants to be part of this conversation, then here's some of the other groups that we would be working with. So let me close this. I hope this is visible. The next, here we go.
You're no longer sharing, by the way.
That's right, because I'm switching. So here's if you want more info about, okay, let me try this. So there are, there's an organization that's very well.
Are you intending to share?
I am, as soon as I have a chance to figure out. Okay, so this particular piece of legislation.
You haven't started.
No, I haven't. But Housing Now is a group that I've asked our board to join. We did join Tenants Together, and Tenants Together and Housing Now are work together very closely in different ways, but they are separate organizations. Julia, do you want to say a few words, or could you, about Tenants Together, which technically we have joined, because that was approved a couple months ago?
Tenants Together is a statewide organization of a loose alliance in some ways. It's centered here in the Bay Area. They have monthly meetings of the membership at large, and usually, well, in the case of Berkeley, our tenant union joined, and of course, not every city has a tenant union, but there are different ways for them to join, and their work is primarily with legislative work. It's similar to CAR in that respect, because that's where real change happens. If you can get a bill passed that covers a lot of stuff, then you don't have to fight in every city and every county, everywhere, all over the state in order to get something. So we focus a lot on that. And as I said, it's primarily organized around legislative stuff, but they also will send help or get volunteers from others of us to go to other cities that can use our help sometime to, try to get rent control, because even with Costa-Hawkins, it's still possible to get rent control individually, city by city.
And that's
You guys
one of
hear me? My whole thing disappeared.
We can hear you.
Okay, because I can't, I don't seem to be on Zoom for some reason, but
just Rains could maybe coach you. You may have just clicked
If it's a Mac, then
somewhere.
Command Tab will switch you back.
okay, I found it. I think I found it, but I don't know how to make it big again, but I'll do that later.
So thank you, Julia. I
Yeah.
want to move to this group, California Housing Now, which chaired, they're based out of Southern California, LA, where there's a very active mixture of tenants' rights groups, community land trusts, and tenants' unions. Chapters of ACE, for example, which we have here in the Bay Area, and I believe are active down there. And they are also in an alliance that worked last year to pass SB 555, which was a bill to set up a study group to say what social housing is. But again, there's already a definition that all the groups I'm mentioning have endorsed, which is increase the stock of permanently affordable at all ranges, but especially for very low, zero low, and in places where it's needed, working family housing that might even be up to a moderate level. But the arc of this is housing is too important to leave to the market. The market has not sufficiently robustly covered the demand, the need, the human need for housing of various choices and incomes. So it's so defunct now, and that the solution is not simply, deregulate and let them do whatever they want, but rather let's build a robust, strong, independent infrastructure that doesn't go out of existence when the administration du jour changes and takes all the money. So what I'm showing now is an email, because I personally have been trying to catch up with this. Housing Now has a monthly email call for a working group throughout the state that includes people from Tenants Together, people from Policy Link, people from the statewide Community Land Trust Network. It is oddly enough not rooted very well yet in the community housing development organization world. In other words, the nonprofits that have done a pretty heroic job, but have still failed to make enough of to create enough safe, secure housing units, because they're dependent on all the bills and finance and budgets. And they tend, some of them are great or very productive, like Saha, but even, or RCD that we have here in Berkeley, but those organizations are basically becoming, they need to be called out at some point to endorse this strategy rather than the tax credit strategy, which has made so many for-profit companies the major beneficiaries of our affordable housing dollars. So here in California and in Northern California, we can join the working group call. I would like to ask the board and members to allow us or me or Carol to put our name as members of the California Housing Now working group. One of the first things they're interested, there is a political.
That's passed, Betsy.
Yes,
was
I know,
the
but it's
19th.
every month. It's every month. And it's every month on, here's, I don't know if I have the list. Yeah. Can you see the list? So anyone can join this call, but I would like permission and support or questions from the board about joining this working group as a supporting member, because this is where creating that larger coalition, the larger alliance, a federation of groups that are committed to the purpose of this social housing, which is just, there's a lot of ways we can imagine what social housing is, but what it means is it's not private for-profit housing, and it's not quasi-public sector housing funded by HUD and tax credits that goes off into becoming a for-profit building in 15 years, should the owners of that building choose.
I
you know?
move we join that.
Well, thank you, Norma.
This
Does
is
someone, yeah, and Helen has a
I have
question.
a question, and it's simply because I can't see the content that you're putting up. So is this an organization that looks at across economic areas as well as access areas? Because a lot of times what we run into with our housing stock, persons with disabilities, is these types of housing aren't operating in a way where we can actually join in as well. And I can't read the material on there,
Yeah.
but is in, because that's a huge issue for our unhoused right now. A majority of our unhoused are now people with disabilities that are getting swept, and there's more of them, and it's unfortunate. And I'm angry about that. So when we are working on this with this particular group, since we do accessibility, or we look at, we're being more inclusive for seniors and persons with disabilities, I hope in the dialogue, are those things part of discuss?
Well,
like, how can you improve
yeah,
that in social
so
housing?
Here is why I would like us to be involved formally. It's because if we don't bring our voices, or the DREDF voices, to this alliance, we're missing a big opportunity to work with our peers, with peer organizations whose primary focus, is renter justice, but doesn't necessarily have the fine-grained specific demand that I know we participated in Alameda. The participant demand that says any public money should require, any public subsidy or tax credits should require that the developer, if you're not going to go, that the developer should expand the number, is required to build more fully accessible units to meet the demand of the most vulnerable group. So it's really about having a voice at the table with a bunch of other people who will be pressing this larger set of issues.
I'm totally with you, but what I'm thinking about now is, do we have, like, could we also see if we could get some advice or assistance as you work in these groups when you're bringing up this voice? We could utilize some of the disability areas.
Of course,
but we do need,
of course.
Stop for a second, Betsy, let me talk. We do need to have also maybe somebody teaming with you who might want to be at these meetings too, that has a lived experience. I think that's very important when we start to look at these areas, because sometimes we have some innovation here, but we also need to figure out how it fits in with the laws. We don't want to scare social housing away from saying, oh, we're not going to deal with this. We want to be on board. So that's my question to you, because you're very good at the housing stuff, but we also need somebody teaming with you that might have that aspects. And personally, I can't do it all for this community, and I'm planning on working hard on all these areas, but I can't do everything. I don't want to, because we need representation from that community. Like, is that something Maria Sol can be? And if she has time, like, do we have people with lived experiences looking for, that's what I'm tossing here.
I think that's a great point and a great idea. And right now, because I haven't been privy to these, or I don't know. So it's mostly, from what I can see, staff people or tenant leaders say there's, they actually are organizing mobile home park residents who have their own desire to be able to buy and preserve that form of affordable housing. I would say that part of us choosing, this board of choosing to take this pathway as a possible way to cut through so many of the many housing ideas, that we would also recruit not just individuals, but organizations like DREDF who have that deep history, and maybe they haven't heard of this because they're not as involved in the housing.
They do the legal, no, they are. They do the legal.
Okay,
thing.
then
I'm wondering, hold on, Betsy. I'm wondering if maybe, Mackay is the systems change. Maybe if you introduced yourself to Mackay and figured out.
We know each other for 2 or 3 years.
I know, within that area would be a good point of direction. They may have somebody there working on housing and these ideas, because I know with the inclusive housing stuff that got passed in Alameda City, Bethany and a bunch of us actually came together here on Great Panther. So I'm wondering if that would be an option so you can do. So I'm totally for this, but I also think we need to start inviting in, because it can't just, it's a lot of work, and it needs to have the right people on and people with the lived experience.
Sounds like that is
so
something
maybe CIL
yes.
Mackay could point you in a direction, because you have a relationship with it. That might be the way to do it.
I would thank you. Am I muted? So I see hands.
No, we have more hands.
Yeah. Do you want to call on someone then, Rains?
Julia would be next.
And then Willie.
Okay, hi. I've been attending Housing Now meetings for years, and I suggest that if you have questions, you should go to some of their meetings. They have, I think, 2 a month. One is a kind of general meeting, and one is where they talk more about specific actions and things. And these meetings, like just like the Tenants Together meetings, in some way, they're really inspiring, because you get to hear good news once in a while. People tell what's happening in their areas and what's going on. That's particularly true at Tenants Together. But I just started going to them, so I assume that you can just go to those meetings, and you could sit, if you don't have I get invitations every month, and I can forward them to you if you don't get them, Betsy.
I do get them now, but it's anyone else who wants to be invited can do that. I'm just trying to get our organization with our platform and point of view at the table. And I don't need to be the only one doing it. I'm just, because I've also been meeting. It's a very welcoming meeting, it does, we don't have, it doesn't necessarily have the back and forth that we have, but it is a genuinely diverse group with people of color. I'm sure there's some groups that are missing from the table, and that is the whole point of these monthly calls, is to create the biggest possible table with the strongest possible message that is backed up through relationships in every other state. They're not there now, but that every other state and this conversation with the federal level eventually will has to be sorted out. So anyway, I'm still pitching.
We
I
should
better
get Willie and wrap up
Yeah.
this topic.
Yeah.
Are you
Jan
looking?
And I
here?
guess I'll
So
call Jan.
Willie has
Oh,
his
sorry.
hand up.
I didn't
Helen,
know if you were looking for a motion or something. I'm a little confused of what you're needing from us.
Sweet. How about, well, Norma made a motion. I wasn't intending to do this, but we have quorum.
This is a speaker meeting, not a business meeting. We're
Well,
in the middle of.
no, Rains, if we have the members, I believe we could. So, but I don't want to rush the decision. But we did have a motion from Norma, who is a voting member. Can we get a second from someone? And then we can actually, okay, Carol, okay. And
could I hear
someone
the
write that
motion
down?
again, please? Because I missed it.
We should put it in chat as well for accessibility.
It was a move that we join this effort. I said, I have proposed that we join it. She was, Betsy was asking for participation with the organization.
Can you give us the name?
No.
Betsy, join.
Housing Now, California Housing Now. Julia, and actually I've been going to meetings on another of their committees last year. So there is a motion. I would like to get clarifying questions. And Willie, do you want to comment on this activity or this organization?
I'm not aware of all these organizations, but I do realize what Helen brought up is very critical in terms of being able to build coalitions, in particular around people that have life experiences. I've never been homeless, so I can't say that's my life experience, but I do know that many of the particular committees that I'm involved in are more wonkish, and they're not centered around people's lives. And I think the question is, how do you bring people that are not in the equation, that are deeply impacted, in particular people of color, because I would qualify that by the fact that I am one, that they are comfortable in these spaces where they can share that information and where people are receptive to those information, because there is that barrier, and it's not going to get any better as it stands now because of what's going on around the homelessness as well as the housing issue. And that's going to be a discussion, I think, that's going to have to be ongoing in order for Green Panthers to grow. Thank you.
We've got to stop and have the speaker allowed to speak.
So I did want to wrap this up, and we do have our speaker. We just welcomed her. Everyone can welcome her. So what I'd like to know, someone help me here. Are there any objections to us joining this group and really developing our local experiences and making sure that this statewide coalition and effort for social housing really reflects the values and needs specifically that are raised here? So is there any objection, or can we call the vote or delay the vote? I need some guidance here from Carol. Yeah,
Call the
Helen.
vote.
Okay.
I'm wondering if we could put like a friendly on here that if, we move forward with you connecting with this organization, if you would work on the issues of communities that are underserved or not feeling safe in the space, so that that they actually maybe getting more diversity within this topic.
Betsy, we need to go to the speaker. We need to go to the speaker now.
Norma, thank you. Please let me finish what we're doing. Thank you, Norma.
Okay. Yeah, I think what this.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's good. Thank you.
I'm hearing support with these really important parts of how we participate. And of course, we can always withdraw. It is an organization of organizations, so it may not be as personally grassroots, but there is absolutely no reason we can't invite our allies and get them at the table too, or at least be a liaison. I can't do it alone. It's going to be bigger. You know, Julia is here. She's already going. I'm excited. So can I see an all in favor? Okay.
You're seeing hands, so.
Okay. Are there any objections? This is very important because I can't see everybody. All right.
And those who have
Can you,
those who have raised their hands digitally
No,
might clear.
could I
Clear, make
hear
sure we can
what the
see.
visuals are? Would you mind telling me the visuals? Because I can't see the hands. Thank you. And I'm a
well,
yes.
okay, thank you. And so okay, oops, I accidentally sent my notes to Jan. So thank you. I think we're going to move forward. I had some other
Dave is
issues,
at a
but
waved
we'll bring it up
hand
at the
and expressing something.
we'll bring it up at the board meeting and affirm it at the board meeting.
Dave, is that's an in favor hand? Yes, thank you.
Okay, thanks everybody.
The short answer is, Helen, there were a bunch of hands, digital and visually
little
waved.
Yellow
Do you know
hands.
what the count was from the votes? Was it all in favor or was there some no votes?
I did not see any visually expressed objections.
Okay, did we ask for
really
no votes yet?
I did. I asked for no votes and expressions of objections. And
Okay, and nothing was up. Okay, thank you.
And we will keep remembering, you know, it's not like this is forever. We can bring this up again to affirm it. And thank you, Patrick, for your thumbs up. We will definitely be, or I will definitely be updating you guys and looking forward to, you know, seeing where we can go with this. And now,
drum roll, please. Deep breath, everybody. Stretch as we get into the exciting part of the meeting. Our special speaker made possible through geography. Though someone who came later may not have heard Betsy say we're in her backyard, not quite literally, but close by, and looking forward to meeting in person. But here in Ann Arbor as we make our travels across, and excited to be with somebody that Betsy and Carol have gotten to work with. Close.
No, that's, yeah, we're in Ann
Just the other
Arbor.
side.
She's in Ypsilanti, just a little ways away. Yeah. I'll just.
So who do we have here, Betsy?
We have the glorious Jan BenDor, who is chair of the Washtenaw County Gray Panthers, and is very close to Detroit. She's a social worker, a sociologist, union activist, women's rights activist, part of the Michigan Women's Hall of Fame in 1991. And she is a videographer. And in the invitation today, we sent you a link to her most recent film, at least as far as I know, which is called Looting Detroit. And although, and she's also founder of the Michigan Electoral, tell me the full name, Jan.
The Michigan Election Reform Alliance in 2004.
A massively, a watchdog group that has been keeping an eye on, and when necessary, making the ruckus to keep an eye on the conservative forces that are trying to deny voters full opportunity and access. And I just wanted to say that is also a piece of what was going on and has been going on in Detroit and cities with majority or large Black populations in the state of Michigan. So I just want to bring these issues together, and I'm really appreciating, Jan, your speaking to us about the voter suppression activities and that you've been involved in here in Michigan and nationally. And as we have time to segue into the National Council of Gray Panther Networks that you are treasurer of, and the Housing Committee, although you don't have to go into that, but it might come up in questions, since that's what inspired the previous
It's great to
discussion.
be here with the East Bay Gray Panthers. Thank you very much. I just want to note that I joined SNCC, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, when I was 13, living in Southern Illinois, and my field director was John Lewis. And I learned a lot, including nonviolent resistance. We got beaten up by the KKK regularly. We were trying to desegregate a swimming pool in Southern Illinois, which is really part of the Deep South. And ever since, I've been pretty involved in the right to vote in all of its ugly forms. And we have voter suppression still going on. Just a quick summary of the history. If you really want to get an eyeful of all the tactics that have been used to suppress African-American voters, Native American voters, Mexican-American voters, please plan to spend 2 to 3 weeks in Alabama, because the museums are there and they will tell you everything that you thought you knew, but you don't. My husband and I did a civil rights tour 2 years ago, and we went we went to Georgia. We went to Atlanta, to the National Museum of Civil and Human Rights. That is a great starting point. I mean, you will just get a real basic orientation to the history. And they include voter suppression and dictators around the world. And then go west to Montgomery. And there you have the National Memorial for Peace and Justice, which is all about lynching. That is one of the most horrific methods of voter suppression. And the Legacy Museum, which is really 4 museums in which you can start in 1616 with the beginning of slavery in North America, and then you go all the way up to mass incarceration. If you haven't been to those places, you owe it to yourself to go, and it's not going to cost you a lot of money. And by the way, you'll be very close to Selma, and that's the infamous Edmund Pettus Bridge, where the marchers going from Selma to Montgomery to protest voter suppression, a 50-mile walk. That's at the east end of that bridge. There's a beautiful little local museum with wonderful attributes of memory of all of the marchers, some of whom are alive today and people you may have met. And their feet are preserved in plaster, their footprints, because that was their marching ability. But today we really have to face the horrific amount of voter suppression going on today. It's happening in Detroit. It's probably happening in communities in California, especially around the South American immigrants. It's got to be dealt with wherever it is, and we can help. Even if we don't think we have a big problem in our own backyard, you can really get involved and help. There's disinformation, which is being rapidly worsened by AI. And I like the fact that California is addressing this with SB 1047 to hold AI producers accountable for the harm that they caused to people who believed lies made by AI. There's uninformation, which is the failure to inform people about their rights or where to go to vote or how to vote. There's a lot of uninformation going on. And as a former election administrator, I spent probably a quarter of my time just trying to get information out to my 20,000 voters about how to vote, where to vote, when to vote, because nobody at the state level was bothering to do that. Then we have practical barriers to voting. Long lines are the killer. There's no reason for long lines in any election jurisdiction. This is a creation of voter suppression. This is just ridiculous. The reason for long lines is that you haven't accounted for the number of people showing up in a short amount of time, 12 to 14 hours, and how much time they each need to vote and how they're going to do that. And I've completely redesigned voting locations so there aren't long lines. There's no reason for long lines, but long lines completely discourage people who are disabled, who are responsible for families and can't wait anymore and have got to go and get their kids. People who begin to need food because they're diabetic. This is absolutely anti-human, and we got to get rid of lines. There ought to be a federal law that forbids a wait longer than 20 minutes to get into a polling place. Now we have a lot of methods that we can use to get change. State constitutions can be changed, and there are 26 states, including California, including Michigan, where we have the right of initiative and referendum. So we, the people, can circulate petitions to change things. You guys did it with getting rid of gerrymandering, and we did it in 2018. And you can also change all of the details about voting and voter suppression and voter access. 2 years ago, we did a proposal 2, which absolutely changed major things about voting. So nobody would have to go in person and vote. Nobody would have to wait in a long line. And nobody would have to repeatedly ask for an absentee ballot. Now you ask for an absentee ballot and you keep getting those ballots until you're dead. That's the way we've got it set up. There should also be something in everybody's state constitution, and you probably haven't heard much about this, but there should be a standard for any requirement or rule about voting that affects voters should be subject to what the courts call strict scrutiny. And strict scrutiny basically is Johnny Carson's old joke. You know, if this is the answer, what was the question? If this piece of bureaucracy is the answer, what is it supposed to solve? And 9 out of 10 times, the perpetrators of these rules and regulations can't answer that question. They just thought it was a good idea and it sounded governmental enough. And many of our courts have said, well, it sounds reasonable. The courts should be able to do, the government should be able to make you submit your citizenship proof 3 different ways. No, that's not reasonable. And that doesn't solve any problem at all. It creates problems. Strict scrutiny has got to be the test of every election rule and regulation. And it should be applied to all of the requirements that are sometimes just made up overnight. And then we have, of course, Georgia. Georgia is the poster child for making shit up overnight. And of course, they passed a horrible bill in 2021 that says that the state can just usurp all of the local election boards' powers, and they can make whatever rule up they want. And Georgia has got to be stopped because they're ruining their state. And I don't know about you, but I'm not eating Georgia peaches until they quit doing it. We have a number of organizations that are working against these things, and there's too many to list right now, but I would recommend that you look at the nationalvotercorps.org. I helped to organize this group. It's a California-based group. and they seek to match volunteers, people from states that don't have a lot of problems, with states projects that are desperate for help. And if you want to help Georgia, you can either go to the National Voter Corps and they will hook you up, or you can connect directly with the Georgia NAACP, or you can connect with Stacey Abrams' group, Fair Fight Action. Georgia is absolutely the worst state when it comes to voter suppression and other cruelty. Like, oh, you can't bring people water when they're standing in line in the hot sun for 3 hours. Really? So this is how we can help immediately. And just to give you an example, in 2020, my group, the Michigan Election Reform Alliance, decided that there were a lot of new and young voters who had never voted absentee before, and they might not know what to do with their ballot, even if they got one. So we sent out 10,000 postcards to these people. And in the postcard, we had a link to a page that had the location of every single ballot drop box that was available, because we had convinced the county to spend some of their COVID money on drop boxes. And they, in fact, took our idea and installed over 100 of them. Detroit has 450,000 voters, and there was not one ballot drop box. And this is in a city where only 30% of the residents have a car, and the bus system isn't anything to write home about. So this way, people could just walk their ballot right to the drop box. That helped. We also listed several other resources they could use to find out about people and proposals on their ballot. And normally, when you look at the return rate of absentee ballots, it's about 60%. A lot of people will get a ballot and just not return it. They don't know what to do. We increased the return rate of this group of new and very unlikely voters to 83% with a postcard project. So I know this works, and these postcards were very personal. They had personal messages from not only people who did them in Michigan, but the National Voter Corps people. And it really made a difference. And I'm very proud of that project, because it demonstrated that there is something that we can all do to reach out to our fellow voters in other communities, other states. Anyway, that's just some of the things that I think it's important to know about voter suppression. It's still happening, and the GOP just does not stop looking for new ways to do it. Betsy, I don't know how much time we have for questions.
Yeah, absolutely. If you see hands or chat, please do. I was going to give you applause. Just. Questions for this part? Nancy.
Hi, thank you. I just wanted to thank this organization and you for my getting to hear what you've just shared. I'm very encouraged by so many people keeping their eyes, especially on Georgia. And I'm just very, very grateful for all the work you've been doing your whole life and continuing on, and many more years to come, I hope. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Nancy.
Yes.
Well, I did wonder if you could, hang on, I'm trying to figure out how to stop this repetition. Can you speak to a little more about your work with lawsuits or other challenges? I think we have a pretty good system here in Alameda County, although someone correct me, East Bay, but we hear about those awful things happening elsewhere, and what should we be alert for? and support other counties where there is active efforts to suppress.
Well, anytime you hear about a rule that's just passed the night before an election, that is totally suspect. And that happens over and over. And you have to be prepared to go to court and stop it. As we had to do in Michigan on a number of occasions. We had a Secretary of State who was absolutely paranoid about non-citizens voting. I mean, she was looking under the beds for these cheaters. We actually did have to take her to court because she was going to require, the night before the election, she was going to require everybody to show a birth certificate. Everybody, you know, who could even find their birth certificate, you know, if it's been 80 years. We won because we went to federal court and she was forced to back off, and the judge actually made fun of her. It was pretty, it's pretty amusing. This is the kind of dumb stuff that they keep trying to do. And then when she finally was forced to prove her allegations, she was claiming that in a previous election, 2010, that there had been 4,000 non-citizens who cast a ballot. As it turned out, there were 4. And 2 of them were Canadians who thought they had dual citizenship. It was a completely innocent mistake. And the other 2 had some equally, you know, innocent assumption. And I can tell you as an election administrator that when new registrations came into me, I would immediately send people out a confirmation and a voter card that confirmed that they were registered and where their voting place was. And I would have people come running into my office who'd gotten this card saying, "Oh, please, please, please undo this, undo this. I never thought this, I'm not a citizen." And I mean, people were in a panic. First of all, it's a felony in Michigan to vote if you're not a citizen. And second of all, they didn't want to get deported. They were in the United States to get a PhD or something. They did not want this. And of course, while they stood there, I would unregister them and have them sign permission to me to do that. The reaction of the non-citizens was pretty telling. They don't want to be voting. It was all an accident. They got passed a form at the motor voter, you know, interaction, and they couldn't really understand it, and they just signed everything that they got. It was completely unintentional. So this is the kind of thing that, you know, the anti-democracy people take advantage of. They take advantage of the confusion and the language skills and so forth of the people who are coming to our country. And I absolutely think we have to stop this kind of exploitation and you know, story mongering. It's all fake.
Thank you. We have 2 questions, hands up. One is from Helen Walsh and then from Maria Saul. So Helen, do you still want to ask your question? Then Maria.
Oh, hi. I want to hug you. I want to wash all of your windows. I want to thank you is the point. Bless you, bless you, bless you. I thought I started early, but you got me. So again, thank you, thank you. And I just want to share that one of our founding fathers said that he loved liberty, but he hated equality. Yeah. So, and then number 45 said, you know, if we let everyone vote, we'd never win another election.
Yeah.
And that finally reappeared. That needs to be on billboards everywhere. So thank you, because obviously we're getting sabotaged here. So we know what to say no to, and we know what to say yes to. And the fact that you're actually practical about doing what it takes to actually facilitate this. I mean, there's so much talk and not enough action. So again, thank you. And then Greg Palast, doing all of his research, right? And the Texan True the Vote and the 30,000, anyone can write in and just get votes. Anyway, bless you. God, thank you so much. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Maria. And I just want to warn you about Greg Palast. I used to be a fan. And until 2016, when he came to Michigan for less than 24 hours and then wrote wrongly about just about everything that happened here. And I have a report about what happened here. I actually gave the FBI a 2-hour presentation about what happened in Michigan. Greg Palast never bothered to talk to me. He never bothered to talk to anyone else who really knew what was going on. And then he wrote this completely wrong article. And I wrote him, I said, Greg, you're wrong on all of your points. Why do you keep doing this? I know it takes more work, but is it just so you can sell your book and your movie? Be very careful about him.
Okay, and I really hear you. And given that I'm out in the world doing the best I can, knowing how imperfect it is,
yeah.
I'm so sorry that happened to you, but I can pretty much say that he might be doing more good than not, and he blew it there. And at least, like in my life, the few things that I might have done right, I'd like to stand, and I ask forgiveness for anything I didn't. So I just know he's brought to my attention so many of these undercurrents and has sued and reported and yada, yada, yada. So we all do the best we can, and God bless everybody, or whatever, everyone. Loves and hugs. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I think there are some very good writers about elections who are way more accurate. I'd be glad to share those people, because there's some really good people. Steve Rosenfeld is one of them.
And any information.
He actually embeds himself.
Right?
Remember when Arizona was doing this crazy hand counting thing in an athletic arena? Steve was there for the whole 3 weeks. He wrote beautifully about it, every detail. He's the kind of person that I trust to report accurately because he puts in the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. Rains, actually,
go
ahead.
I can go. Mine's sort of more a topic transition, so I should wait until. I'm just curious about, I've remember when we first got involved in the Panthers. There you were trying to keep a network of national of groups alive nationally, replacing the centralized national that had folded. And so I've seen Betsy and Carol's participation there, and I've chosen to stay with the local for my own sanity. So I'm curious about where that started and where it's going, and what you've been able to do at that level with groups working together.
Well, as some people here may know, the Gray Panthers started in 1970, and unfortunately, while I was national president of the national board, the board decided they were no longer viable. They wanted to dissolve. They had gone belly up financially. It's a long story. I fought that. And so did Randy Block, who at the time was the board secretary, and so did Clint Smith, who at the time was a member of the board from Texas. But we could not stop the majority of the board from deciding to dissolve the old National Gray Panthers. And that was in 2014. The dissolution was very messy, and I won't go into that, and it's very unfortunate. But we lost our domain name for one thing, but we did save our trademark. Another long story. And the three of us decided to try to start up again, but we determined to make this a horizontal organization, not a vertical organization, not a top down, no national office, just a council of networks that come together to influence national affairs while the local networks influence state and local affairs. And that's what we've been doing. And I think we've had some impact. I won't go into all the things that we think we have accomplished, but it's made a difference. It's been worthwhile. I'm also the vice chair. So I'm involved in helping new networks start up. We are excited that we're going to have 2 new networks coming on board that have made all of the efforts to qualify. One is in Colorado. Colorado used to be a really great Gray Panthers group. They faded off, and we've got them going again. And also San Diego. So we don't want all the new groups to be from California. So please spread the word. I mean, we've been trying to do North Carolina. We've got Kentucky. And we used to have 3 groups in Pennsylvania, and we're trying to get those lighted up again. So we're working on it, but this the process of development is very labor intensive because you have to hold a lot of hands. A lot of people just don't know how to organize, and it's a teaching opportunity.
I see that Carol has her hand up, but I think someone was before you. Was that Margot who had a question earlier?
He just answered my question.
Okay. Margot was a convener of our chapter, which started started as a Gray Panther group, but independently has its own 501c3 since 1975. And I think, Margot, you were co-convener for over 10 years, up to 2000, the early 2000s. Anyway.
Yeah, well, the way we organized, and it seemed to work, is we would have people who would come in and speak on important issues, and you'd gather a large crowd to hear the issue like we're doing today with you. And that would bring in a lot of people. And so we have a large email list that we used to send out. And as you know, now they consider email is for old people, and the young people text. So I don't know whether we've changed. I'm still emailing, but I really appreciate hearing you. You really gave me the answers I wanted to know what happened to the National Gray Panthers and what is going on today. I admire Randy Block a lot. He's really kept things together. And I went to Detroit to his convention a few years ago and was very impressed with his crowd. So keep up the good work. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Randy is kind of burning out. And so we're going to be holding elections in November from the 10 or 12 council representatives to elect a new president and vice president, treasurer, and secretary. And Randy deserves a great applause for his service since he has been at this with me since 2015, and he's kind of overloaded. And I told Randy, you know, you don't have to do this forever. So somebody else needs to step up, and we hope someone will who will be eager to learn the job. I think we got to keep going, and we need to be able to have a way to build our future. Fortunately, we were given a wonderful legacy gift by a member of the Wisconsin Gray Panthers, and we're looking at how, and it was called the Pay It Forward Fund, and we will be trying to rebuild using this gift as carefully as we can to build a future.
Well, thank you very much. I assume that Randy, like the rest of us, is getting older, but I thought I'd give you a little kick. I'm 94 years old now, and I'm running for office. I'm running for state office. That isn't crazy, let me tell you. But if you want to get your people active, tell them to run for office, because it's a whole different experience, and you get a lot of people listening to you that never listened to you before.
I totally support you, and I've run for office a number of times, and once in a while I won. And you know, it's the cheapest way to get your genealogy done, because people will dig into your past.
Well, they can dig a long time.
Thank you, Margot. I wanted to say Carol has her hand up. And before Carol, Norma, yes, your message came through. She's recommending School is the Opposite of Education, a study to release us for our confinement as to ways our
That's not the
educational
one I was
system.
talking about. I posted a
Okay.
summary on the of what I thought got cut off.
Thank you.
Okay,
My
thank you.
fault.
So if people have the chat, I see Carol and then Helen. Yeah, thank you, Rance. Carol? Yeah.
I just want to say this before I forget again. Jan, we had a board member, Mike Ruckless, that moved to North Carolina. And he should be put in touch with the other people in North Carolina that are trying to start a network. And I will send you his information.
Great. We've heard from dozens of people in North Carolina, but we've not been able to embolden one of them to take the lead.
Ah,
That's the hard part.
Helen, and then I'd like to comment. We might take a wrap up. Helen?
Oops. I thought I was.
Thanks
There
for
she is.
all. Hi, Jan. Thanks for all your wonderful information. At one point when you were talking, my computer system Wi-Fi crashed. I've been having some problems, but I did attempt to put in the chat, and this is around voting rights. American Association for People with Disabilities, we have something that's called Rev Up the Vote. And Linda Nunes, who's been worked with the Gray Panthers during the healthcare issues, she's one of them. I've been involved with the communications background, but there's different states, and that might be of help, because you're mentioning voter suppression, and they are going to be trying to suppress people with disabilities from voting. There's even a campaign going on here locally about voting and masking up, because some states are disallowing masks. So many of us with immune suppressed are going to be running into issues. So I put the information in the chat. I wasn't too sure if it got there. It's called Rev Up the Vote. And then underneath our regular federal laws, there's a whole bit of information about how people can prepare to vote as a person, you know, disability, senior, it includes seniors. So when I'm saying people with disabilities, I'm always speaking from a diverse concept here, an inclusive concept. If you identify that you need that help, is what I'm saying. So I put that 2 bits of information in there. And hopefully it went in. So did it go in, Betsy or Rain? If not, I can grab it and send it in an email. But it might help with what we're trying to do to get connected with what American Association of Persons with Disabilities are doing around the voting and disability rights voting and Rev Up campaign that has been going since registration. We've been involved. I've been involved with the communications.
Well, thank
Helen,
you very much, Helen. I'm sure there's a lot more to be done. I can tell you that in my state, I was required as an election administrator to work with a community disability rights group to evaluate all of our polling places, all of our equipment. I had some wonderful people help me. And I also had special training for my election workers as to how to communicate with people, voters with disabilities of varying kinds. You know, it's very detailed. You had to actually measure the rise of the ramp that would take someone up to the entrance to a polling place. And I was able to get grants to put automatic door openers on my polling places. And we did a huge amount. We kept talking to people about our, you know, what else do we need to do? How do we do this? There are a lot of issues with the actual tabulators, and I won't go into that now, but the tabulators are an issue. I've had a lot of headaches from that situation. So
I'm coming, when I'm putting the information in, I'm coming from the perspective of voters getting the information. So now when they're coming to the polls or registering, they know what their rights are, so they're not suppressed. So that's where I'm coming from, is we're looking at all that. But I totally appreciate that you really focused on that, because that's one of the areas. So thanks, Jan.
Helen, I don't see your references in chat, but maybe you can either say the name of the organization and or Jan, if you're willing to share an email potentially. Helen has done, you know, she helped us greatly on the housing, the original nursing home work that you were doing, and you might want to mention that. Anyway, just want to make sure to get those resources shared. So
thank you.
Jan, I actually wanted to ask about the Georgia is now, I think it's Georgia is now requiring that every polling station count their ballots. That doesn't mean they have to count the votes.
Right.
They just
It's
need
just
to
the
physically,
physical ballots.
well, as a poll worker, which is a hell of a lot of hard work. Back before COVID, it was
and
a lot.
It's totally crazy, because every precinct
We counted them.
reconcile.
We had to count them all. You know,
ridiculous.
just to say, this is how many were cast, this is how many were spoiled, this, and it was just, we weren't tabulating because we weren't opening the ballots. We just had to say how many we had received and of what kind. Why is that a problem? Why does that seem
first
impossible?
Of all, every precinct should have a precinct book in which they do all of this math. We have so many people show up in person. We had so many blah, blah, blah. And the only time that you have a problem is when your math doesn't balance.
Yeah.
Okay. And I've worked with dozens of precinct chairs when their math didn't balance. There's no reason to go back and second guess what these brave people have done. They've done their work at 10, 11, 12 at night, when most of us, our brains are shutting down. I had one group that couldn't get their balance done, and it was 3 a.m, and they were all just exhausted, and they said, please help us. And I stayed until 4 until we got it done. Why do it all over again? That's just nuts.
Well, at least it's the higher ups.
It doesn't accomplish anything more than what you already did by your existing requirements.
Actually, I just heard information that it presents more irregularities because hand counting is more prone to error, but the primary interest is it's going to delay the certification.
Of course.
All right. So
that's
I just wanted to mention
all
that.
over again.
Well, and it's the setup for the same mishigash we went through. And yeah, so, okay. Thank you.
So Jan, Jan, thank you so much. We typically take a short break at on the hour, but I'm not seeing other hands. If there were, I would ask if we want to continue. But I hope you'll stick around a little bit. But I particularly want to see if some of the folks who've come for the first time today that I'm aware of, Douglas and Kathy, Nancy D, and Patrick, you've been quiet, although you're a regular, and Sally, I'm not sure which Sally you are. Do any of you want to ask a question of Jan? Because otherwise you'll have a chance to introduce yourself later after the break. Any of those people who haven't spoken yet? Just loving the fact that we've got new faces here. Okay, Nancy D wanted to ask a question.
Okay, I'm Nancy Delaney, and I'm liking the idea. There aren't many people on this call, so I can imagine in the next few weeks that having your email address might come in handy. And I just really appreciate who you are and how you are. And so if you feel comfortable giving the email address, that would be nice. I'm sure no one on this call is going to overuse it or anything. So that was
That's
my
fine.
only comment.
I would be happy to share that. I think quite a few people in the call already have it if they have been part of our Gray Panthers subcommittee on senior housing.
Well, only 3 of us have been active on the committee.
Well, please share it. jan@bendor.org. Very simple.
So it's what? Jan@BenDor what?
B as in Boston, BENDOR.org.
Boston? No. BEN?
DOR.org.
Right. Oh, so it's just Jan@BenDor, period?
.org.
.org. Okay, doke. Oh, great. Oh, perfect. Well, that's nice and simple. Thank you. And I'm just so happy I found this online and I went, oh, I haven't been to the Gray Panthers. I tried to call them a few years ago when I was dealing with some housing issues, and it didn't sound very active, but this is clearly active and I'm very happy to find it. Thanks.
We are making good trouble.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. And keep at it. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. For anyone who needs to, this is a time to stretch, take a break, take care of our bodies. I know in some circles now people do little exercises together. But in this case, before we do that, let's give Jan a big, unmute and then applause or make sparkles flow through the air, whatever we can do. And I'm just so glad you were up for this, Jan. I think we'll try to get Randy in sometime. And so so take your break and then we can do a little hellos for some of our newcomers today if they care to identify themselves. And we have a couple more updates and news about.
I'm going to thank everyone for
coming.
Yeah. Today. I'm going to have to take off. I have to be somewhere nearby, but I'm really overjoyed to talk with all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you for this promised tour of Ypsilanti tomorrow.
I'm going to show you this is the arsenal of democracy.
Right. And some pointers to the good people of Detroit would also be great.
There you go. All right.
So let me mute.
Carol's keeping an eye on it. I'll check in briefly as I'm going to have to be. Oops. I'll just mute here. Wrong button. What's it? There. I'll have to go off to another engagement soon, but just say it's been I've been adding a lot of events to the Panthers calendar, so keep an eye on that at eastbaygraypanthers.org, and we'll send out some more announcements related election countdown events that the California Alliance of Retired Americans, CARA, of which we're a member, is doing, and various other related groups. So we look forward to yeah, keeping things active and plan ahead for October. Our social will be the second Wednesday of the month. And
Board meeting, hopefully on the 1st.
somewhere in there. And then again, the speaker meeting on the 4th. And just a reminder that our election process is underway. Betsy may be sharing a little later, and Carol is a slate we've got of nominees, and we're still open to additional board candidates, but there's other ways to serve the
Where do you
organization as
hold,
well. It's
where
not
do
like
you
there's
hold the
nothing.
mid-month?
Lots of ways to plug in. Your help is, and your membership dues is part of what makes it possible.
If you'd like to be a voting member,
Where
but
do you-
everyone is welcome at these meetings.
And
Where do- where
also
do you
just to
hold the
share,
mid-month
thanks to
meeting?
Robert, who's sort of holding the energy, and several others of keeping things moving.
Financially, you mean?
We had a great time at the Solano Stroll. And let's see if I can find the pictures from that, just to show a couple of those. There's so many other pictures. Here we go.
That's a big, is there anyone here from outside, from another city or outside of California or outside of the Bay Area? Oh,
No.
wonderful.
Where do you
How
hold?
long do you have?
Doug, that you're not coming through. I don't know if you don't look muted, but
Can you hear me now?
if you'd like to speak, please do.
Yes.
Yes. How I'm originally from Massachusetts. Does that count?
I guess I'm the one who couldn't hear you.
Oh, yeah, you turned up the volume on here. Here we go. Actually, can you remute for a second here?
Yeah.
That would be on speaker, yes. Last one. There, thank you. So I just want to share real briefly.
What did Doug say? Can you
I didn't.
ask him?
Doug, you'll have
Doug
to say
said that
again,
he was
sorry, we're
originally from
disconnected,
Massachusetts.
from audio for a moment. But let me just share here a few of the pictures. We had a wonderful, some of the other booths, but here, somewhere in here is our booth.
It's not showing up yet if you're trying to share. Oh, yes, they are. Never mind.
Some other folks are new, but yeah, great presence and great Panthers. Lots of folks stopping by, and yeah, that's Grandma Rosovic, and yeah, good connections with other neighboring groups, and just a lovely day. So I encourage others to join us. There's Maria, and Robert, and me, and yeah, they're good folks doing good work.
It was a lot of fun. And thank you very much. Thank you very much.
There we
It was
are.
a lot of fun.
There's
Yep.
Maria.
My friend Brian, yeah.
So
So
if there's another festival, that is one place where, we've gone to Juneteenth, and it's a place where we've connected with folks who like, what? Gray Panthers still exist? What? Who are you? Why are you here? But that's part of being a member, is just being present and letting people know we care. And we have history and experience on so many issues. So
Just to back up a bit.
do you and Kathy just want to briefly introduce yourself? Just say where you are or what brought you here today.
Sure.
and remember to turn your speaker up.
And what did you say? Kathy's away from the computer right now, but oh, here she comes. And I used to go to all the different things that were in that building and walk by a sign, on a glass door that said Gray Panthers, and I was always inspired by that for years and years. And now an opportunity to attend a meeting was just kind of cool. And so this is our second meeting. Anything to add to that?
No.
Third? What? No.
Well, it's just that sometimes with a lot of the other stuff we've got going on with other appointments, I either forget about it or somehow by the time I notice it's too late. But I'm hoping to improve on that because we would really like to be more active in this.
Betsy, we can't hear you. I would like to know where the mid-month meeting has been being held.
At Halacio's, same place.
Same place. Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
we didn't have it in September because Betsy was out of the country and I was having my knee replaced.
Oh, I thought it was because the place wasn't open for us to do that. That's what it
No.
sounded like. Thank you.
You're welcome.
They closed for a couple days. I
Oh,
think,
they did.
yeah, but
It
it
was
wasn't
start
a
days.
permanent. It was so. Carol, are you or will someone else be up for co-hosting the social? Halacio's.
Yes.
Okay,
And I
wonderful.
will call people to help tell them about the meeting. Douglas and Kathy, are you interested in coming to the in-person meeting? It's on the second Wednesday from 1 to 3:30.
Where's it at?
Halacio's, it's a deli.
Cafe, really.
Okay.
At Blake and Sacramento in Berkeley. It's on the corner.
Sure.
Have you registered your phone information on the website, eastgraybaypanthers.org?
I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know.
If you're getting the emails, you're at least on one of the lists,
So you might share, if you're comfortable sharing your phone number in chat, then Carol can,
Okay, that's fine.
and we'll both write it down. Yeah.
Okay.
But it's great. And Nancy D, where are you located?
She's in Berkeley.
Oh,
I'm
that's
actually,
You know
I'm
Nancy.
in North Oakland. I'm actually in North
no.
Oakland, but I was in
Oh.
Berkeley over 40 years. So that some people might have it confused, but I'm just over the line from Berkeley.
Me too.
And
I'm south of, west of you. I knew you were in
Yeah,
Oakland. I forgot.
yeah, that's okay. That's okay. I'm actually I'm sort of dabbling both places, because I'm really right at the line anyway.
Yeah. I have
Well-
your email, Nancy. I'll email you.
Oh, great. Okay. So do you have an email or so? I'm going to go on the website and make sure my phone number and email's on there, but it's
Okay, great.
It's Nancy Foster Child at Yahoo.
Oh, yeah,
basic
I have,
one.
yeah.
Yeah. That's probably why I'm here. It's because you
Yes.
have that. You
You
just
are
didn't know it
the-
was Nancy D.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, that's okay. But it's Nancy Delaney for people who use whole last names. Yeah.
Sally is another unfamiliar person if you want to introduce yourself. And then just to let you know, we have a couple of more like announcement and formal business, and then we often adjourn at 3:30, but stick around for socializing or leave the chat room leave the Zoom room open if people want to keep talking or exchanging. It gets a little bit wild after 3:30.
Betsy,
Yes.
I was able to get that information in the chat, so I'm just letting people know. The American Association for People with Disabilities, Rev Up the Vote. There's some information. Your voting rights as a person with a disability by state. And then below that, there is the government, the general federal government areas for what your voter rights are. I can go more into detail. So anybody here ever wanting to contact me and say, I want particulars on this area, I can zone in on that information. That's what I do for the community. They contact me and I zone in because it is a lot to go through. So whatever I could do to help with my knowledge base, I'm here to help you, whichever way I can.
Thanks, Helen. Do you want to share your phone number or contact info in the chat, or is that?
Oh, yeah, sure. I'll put it in the chat. Unless there's anybody here that wants me to do it audio, I'll do it both. So maybe I'll just do it both just in case. My personal email is Branach, BRANACH comcast.net. And now I'm going to put it in the chat.
Okay. So just to get back to the rough agenda, I'd like to ask if Julia or Robert can provide more information. Often Hallie Hammer does as well, about the Friday. No, is it the CARA? There's a joint meeting between CARA, the California Alliance of Retired Americans, and the Long-Term Supports and Services for All Coalition, which we've been a member of for several years. And LTSS for All has been working on progress for a universal care insurance benefit, basically a state-supported insurance benefit that would cover people who aren't eligible for the home care worker services under Medi-Cal. So anyway, that is covering all the ballot issues, most of the ballot issues that we would be interested in and have been supporting. So that is Friday. You were announcing it, Rains, but how do we get people the information?
We'll throw it into a broadcast with more events that we're sharing.
Really? Well,
Yeah,
I'm going to look for the online registration for that event. You do have to sign up in advance.
Yeah, we'll get that.
And we'll put it out there and then look on our calendar at East Bay Gray Panthers. If Robert or Julia, if you have something more to say about that. Okay, so that why don't you?
There's nothing to say.
Okay, I have some material, but it's disappeared in the maw of my desktop here. So so if someone else has an announcement, put up your hand, and after we do this next piece of formal business, okay, Carol and Helen, after I've done, I just want to get this formal business done. So our bylaws set up by the people before us in 75 and 91, I think, say that voting people who are up to date on their dues, and that varies now from a $5 hardship contribution annually, or at least this year, 15 and then $35. And we welcome any and all donations. You can do it online, or you can check on our website for the address of our treasurer, Robert. Anyway, by paying dues, you are then eligible to run for the board, which we welcome everyone, or to be nominated for the board. And then in a very formal, when we have to make formal votes, it matters, the folks who are voting members, but voices are all welcome. So our member election and board election official membership meeting is in October, the fourth Wednesday in October. We also usually have a speaker. But in September, we announce a preliminary slate of nominees. So currently there are 4 board members who would have so far not withdrawn and want to be continuing. So that is Carol Crooks, myself. We serve currently as co-conveners. Robert McGarrion, our treasurer, and Rains Cohen, who was hosting here, my husband. So in addition, we have 3 other board members who are continuing their 2-year term, and that's Helen Walsh, David Blake, and Maria Soul. Carol, we've interviewed 2 members voting members, I should say, who have expressed interest in serving on the board, and that is Miss Cecilia Cunningham, who's often here, but not today. She's in Sacramento at a basic needs rally with several other members. And then, I'm sorry, she's a resident of Oakland, active with East Bay Housing Organizations as a board member or leader with United Seniors of Oakland and Alameda County, what else? Several other groups. And she would like to help us develop members. So calling members, recruiting members, and that is very much wanted. And Christy, who's also not here today, but you'll meet them on the election day. So we're working with the board to approve their nomination. It's preliminary. We don't know how it's going to go through. And then there are people serving on the board doesn't give you special privileges, but it's a lot easier to stay in touch with active members who want to be liaison with different issues we're working on. And so board members do sometimes play special roles with their strengths. What else am I saying? And of course, they approve policy and the use of our huge treasury, which Robert will report on next month. I'm joking. But we are accountable to our members. Everything we do, really, it depends on our members. But having folks who can take care of some of the, as administrative activities, we do not currently have a secretary. And that's why having a couple people who want to help specifically with some of that, keeping track of our members and being able to be in touch with them more easily. Carol's done a phenomenal job. As we grow, we want more folks. I'm going to leave it at that. We're not making a decision, but the board members, I am, normally we invite board members and all of our voting members once a month. But this particular thing is formally the board to prepare the slate and approve it. And if you feel you would like to become part of the board, please give Carol or myself a call or an email, and we'll talk to you about how that works. Or you're welcome to talk to other board members. Who else? David Blake is a board member. Helen is a board member. Robert is a board member. Maria Soul, who was here earlier, is a board member, and Carol and I. Rains. Yeah, I think I've named everyone. Okay, that said, that report is over, and we will formally send you, once we've met and approved as a board, we'll formally send our membership, and including all of you who came today, that preliminary slate, because nominations can happen from the floor on the day of the election. So I'm going to look up the date of the October meeting and carry on.
You see the question from, what's his name? He wants to know how you pay, Patrick wants to know how you pay your dues online. I don't think do you have that set up?
Well, you basically go to the general donate button and use a credit card. And that if you go to the donate, it doesn't refer to them as member dues, but just know you have a choice. And I mean, it will give you amounts, and it will also tell you how to mail a check to our treasurer, Robert. Thank you for asking. So that's eastbaygraypanthers.org. There's a menu bar, and look for join or donate.
Is there a mailing address? Is there a mailing address?
Yes,
Postal?
I'm just not remembering what it is, but it's on the website under donate.
So if you put down Betsy or Rains, you can't, it won't go. You need an address.
Well, if you're using a credit card, it actually goes straight into our bank account that Robert manages.
Oh, good. Oh.
And notifies us. And by the amount that you choose, we know whether, well, at this point, it becomes obvious if you become a voting member, between $5 and $35. You can also definitely, and some of us do. Oh, Robert. Yes.
Yeah, I want wanted to point out that our mailing address is P.O. Box 1126, Berkeley, California 94701.
And I'll put that in chat for you, Robert.
Put it in
Yeah,
every
P.O.
time,
Box 1126.
every time we meet, put it in.
1126.
Yeah.
1126, and it's sorry, 94701.
Yes.
And when we have our socials, that's sometimes a good time to either make that good with Robert in cash or check. Yeah, I'll leave that. Thank you, Norma.
Thank you.
So, were there other announcements or activities that people are doing? And thank you, Helen.
Carol's got her hand up.
Oh, and
She has.
Carol, why don't
As
you
in hand.
go? And Helen.
Okay, the in-person social meeting is the second Wednesday, and it's been from 1:30 to 4, but we've changed the time. The time is now 1 to 3:30, and you can drop in for part of that time or all of that time. But we changed the time because we were running over, and they were trying to close, and we were running over with our meeting. So we shifted half an hour earlier. And for those of you who I have your phone number, I will call you and remind you of the social meeting.
Helen, and then I also have an announcement, an action item.
Yeah, I actually wanted to thank everybody who attends these meetings. And I know I haven't been here much, but if it wasn't for having groups like the Gray Panthers and others, it would have been a really difficult to advocate. And I know a lot of you guys spoke out too at meetings about remote options. In the chat, I put what the settlement was. It was reached yesterday. And we managed to get more remote options for commissions and boards. We're still going to need to request our accommodations if we need that accommodation. So I welcome people who really want to get involved with meetings, but have a disability and they are unable to identify that way. You can make a request of that remote option. So it goes either way, or as a public member, that's the next step. And I'm going to be along for that ride too. So the information in the press release is in there. I know I contacted Kelly Hamagren and she's probably going to write something up. But please utilize the information and read what the settlement was so that you know, but don't hesitate to ask us public that you want and remote. So the other thing that I wanted to put out, Nancy Rader from Measure E wanted to actually come to help with understanding the difference, because there's two sidewalk measures for the city of Berkeley bonds. One is FF and one is EE. She is interested if there is an opportunity, and she did send a CC to me and one, and that came to you, Betsy.
Yeah, thank you.
You know, interested in clarifying or answer any questions so we come into voting, people could understand these measures and bonds more clearer, because they are very difficult to understand. It's about fixing our streets and sidewalks and accessibility for persons to be able to get around town as a pedestrian. And there's two measures. All right, that's it. Thanks.
Thanks,
Norma.
Norma.
I have a comment about that. Peace and Freedom Party, which you all advocate support for by our nature, is always advocates against bonds, except very rarely. Why? Do you know why we don't like bonds? Because they put money in the pockets of the people who can afford to make that investment. And so they steal our money by us paying interest on those bonds all the time. So it's a question, and is there another way? You know, if the city had been able to do it another way. And do we really want submission to the idea, oh, we have to fix the this or the that? Do we really want to fix the this or that? Often, too often, it's a sham, an unnecessary fix, as it were. And the sidewalks, I've been recommending that people go out there with a big hammer and break up a square of sidewalk and put it down as tiles around the upset, around, put it down so that it's flat there, and save ourselves and make it a more interesting, more sustainable place on the street. All right, just a thought.
I've seen rubber tiles that allow the trees to grow, because they do that, and we need our trees. But this isn't an issue that Gray Panthers has taken a position on, although there's been controversy, as some of you might know, about bike lanes and parking. So one of the ways people participate is if you have an issue you really want to champion.
And wheelchairs, we have to mention
There we go.
wheelchairs. That
Okay.
was the one that touched me.
Very important.
Well, a little bit about the two bonds, which I've looked into to understand. Some of it was to actually have it more accessible for people, because we have this 50-50 in Berkeley where the homeowner has to pay 50. One of them, the cover, it would go for the worst areas first. And there would also, what I believe when I asked, that there was coverage so that 50-50 wasn't occurring, so that the sidewalks actually got fixed, so it wouldn't offset homeowners with disabilities or homeowners on fixed incomes. So that's why I thought it might be interesting to have a better understanding and maybe that Q&A to take place, because I'm always a no on bonds and measures myself. So, but I thought that maybe there's some people working on it with the best interest. So that's why I mentioned it and thought it would be helpful, because we've talked a lot about inaccessible pedestrian ways for our populations of people.
If we keep taking care of us, we will become more and more communist.
There we go. I did want to start wrapping up with a couple final announcements. The October election meeting, and we will have at least some speakers around possibly ballot measures and housing ballot measures here in Berkeley. If there's a special issue in the Oakland election, please let's work on getting someone to speak about that as well. I'm not as up to date. But our next speaker meeting is Wednesday, the 23rd. So it's actually before the elections by a good almost 3 weeks. So we hope to see you all again. October 23rd by Zoom. You'll get if you put it in your calendar, then you'll know to look for the invitation with the link and this featured program for that day. You'll get it usually the week of the event itself, as early as we can. Or you can go to the website where it might already be updated there on the calendar. Then, as we were talking earlier, there's two bills competing on the Berkeley ballot measure that we've been asked, and in fact, I'm thinking we endorsed. One is BB and the other is CC. BB was put forward by the Berkeley Rent Board and protects tenants' rights to organize, as well as strengthening the oversight of more rental housing, including affordable rental housing, like our senior buildings, gives the rent board more oversight, not powers to regulate, but if tenants have issues going on above and beyond their own tenant organization, or maybe there is no tenant organization, if they have landlord issues, then if BB passes, there's not only a 5% limit on rent increases, which is below where we are now, but it also allows for like consultations and mediation with your landlord and you with the rent board, which is skilled at those kinds of conversations.
Betsy,
Yep.
Dave Blake had his hand up.
Oh, great. Thank you. Then I'll come back to other. Well, I did want to just also flag Monday, September 30th at 11 a.m. is a town hall on what is social housing. This is a statewide town hall webinar. You have to register, and it's with the Housing Now, California Housing Now, and Tenants Together will certainly be part of that. Okay, so that's September 30th, 11 a.m. Dave.
Just so people understand what's actually going on and we're not spreading misinformation. BB was put on the ballot by the Berkeley City Council, not by the rent board. It was the rent board did propose a measure for the ballot that failed to gather enough signatures, and the city council instead put something on that incorporated a few of the things that the rent board had petitions that tried to get on the ballot and failed. And but not the most important things, in case you thought that it did successfully make it to the ballot. The biggest things were the end of phasing out of golden duplexes and subjecting nonprofit large apartment owned buildings to rent board supervision. Those measures are not in BB. But the rent board, the group of people, including the BTU and the rent board, have endorsed the council's proposal, especially because it's important that the landlords not have the only thing on the ballot that people might routinely vote for, thinking it's just a normal housekeeping measure. So very important that the council did that, very important to support it, and everybody on the left agrees that this is a good thing.
Yeah. That's Berkeley Measure BB. And if you have questions, we can get to them at another time. But politics, it took some lobbying and effort, phone calls to approve that. And we did take a position. So Norma or Julia, why don't we do Julia? You haven't spoken in a bit, and then Norma. And then Dave, will you wrap us up with a poem?
Yeah, well, I just wanted to remind you that there's a Berkeley Measure CC that was put on by the landlords, and you should definitely vote against that. They want to do means testing for rent control and really and just take away as many tenant rights as they possibly can.
I will vouch for that.
No on CC.
Yeah, corporate.
And then don't forget to vote for State 33, which is the one to get rid of Costa-Hawkins.
Thank you. We'll follow up on the ballot measures, more details on Friday at the CARA Long-Term Sports and Service Coalition ballot discussion this Friday. Also, I hope next month to have written. I do see you, Norma. The people who wrote CC and who marshaled their Rolodexes and bankrolled opposition to BB, the one we're inviting support for, we're members of the California Association of Realtors. And just to understand how egregiously this organization, I'm not saying everyone who sells real estate is a fiend, but this organization has acknowledged its racist and illegal actions to undermine fair housing law and to
for 75 years.
75, yeah. And they have done nothing to actually make reparations for the harms done. But this is They have 3 packs and they pretty much finance most of the state's anti-renter, anti-tax, secure, safe, affordable housing. This is their target. So rent control in Berkeley is a target, and we have a lot of wealthy realtors, that trademarked word,
Hello.
in Berkeley, and they've done this kind of
I
shit.
can't see who it is.
Yeah,
Nancy,
well, go to Facebook sometime and look up who's
I'm
speaking.
far from my computer.
I'm joking. Oh, but Norma has her hand up. Short and sweet, Norma. Core, and then we're going to close out with a poem.
Stop talking. If you want it short, the rent board has put out a list of their positions on measures and propositions on the ballot. I don't have an address. Maybe somebody here wants to put up a link to the rent board's contact so that people could look up that information. There was something else, but anyway. Go ahead.
Thanks. And we'll share more at our social and in October.
Betsy, are you putting on the on our website our position on the various ballot measures?
I have not had the bandwidth, but if, we haven't endorsed all that many. I think it was BB that we endorsed last month. And we yeah, if you can remember, we'll put it on. I got to look at the notes that Christy took, because we did endorse a few things, but that's a great idea. It's just more.
There goes an address for the rent board.
Help me remember that. Yeah.
I'm copying down the chat onto a Word doc. So if you want a copy of that, you have to write me a note and ask me.
Oh, yeah. But if you were willing or able to put your email, we don't, it takes some work to retrieve your information from the database, which is why you won't be getting any ads or, of course we never sell or anything, but knowing that you came today, it's really helpful if you put that in the chat, and Norma can send you a copy.
If anybody wants to look in the chat, I just posted the rent board information, telephone number information, email address of the city of Berkeley, even the TDD number for people that are hard of hearing.
Thanks. And I could see Dave's itchy to go. The Berkeley Renters Convention Coalition is something we're part of, but between conventions, Berkeley Tenants Union has a number of resources on their webpage, including contacts with lawyers, and Tenants Together also has a statewide tenants' rights information hotline. I mean, they're not that hot. They don't know. Might take them a few days to get back to you, but it's a well-trained, well-organized information source, and Tenants Together
Dave
offers
Blake
that.
has something to tell us, doesn't he?
Yes, he does, because he knows a lot, and he's our poet laureate. Dave, I'm going to ask you to unmute.
We have to shout louder, everybody. He walked away from it. Well, next time.
Are we complete enough for today? And if anyone has one word or a headline of 3 words they'd like to close us out with, then let's breathe till Dave gets back, or you're free to sign off. Okay. nice to see new faces and old faces. So. Feel free to call Carol or me or email. We should have, I'm Betsy Morris 88@gmail.com. And if you have a pen, Nancy or Doug and Kathy, my number is 510-809-7252. Did I say that so fast? But if you'd like. Carol, do you want to?
Yeah,
Carol
my
calls
email
people.
is cricket chatter. That's CRICKETCHATTER @rocketmail.com. And excuse me, I'm out of breath. My phone number is 510-712-4668.
Okie dokie.
Hi, Nancy.
It's nice to see
Hi,
some new
Doug.
faces and some old
Hi, Doug.
faces.
Hi, Kathy.
Bye, everyone. Nice to see you all and meet you all. And this is a great,
Yeah.
it was a great forum. So thank you for holding this, Betsy. Appreciate it. And
Really
Carol.
glad you. Thank you, Thank you, Helen. You brought, yeah.
Yeah,
feet to the
thanks.
fire.
Thanks, Helen.
We're all in this together, and I'm with you all. I know I got a lot of information. It could be overwhelming, but truly and really, boots on the ground and information wise, the more we come together with good ideas collectively, I think, you know, the better. And as we organize in community, maybe it will help, you know, with people getting good information.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Oh,
Thank you, Helen.
hold on, please. This jerk. Can you tell me about basic needs? You spoke about the basic needs rally.
Yeah,
And
Dirk.
Yes.
Thanks for coming. Share about that.
Please tell me about basic needs rally in Sacramento. I've Googled it without success. What is basic needs? I know there's something associated with Cal Berkeley, but it's for the benefit of Cal students.
Dirk, Carol and I think both got an email from our member Arlene Hip, who's active with that committee that's organizing in Oakland. What we'll do is we'll try to forward you that information about what today. Because I just know it's another kind of political community organizing group, different from the Poor People's Campaign, but with a real set of goals and targets, I guess, around the budget. We'll let you know.
Thanks for leading this meeting. Bravo.
Oh, it's good to hear from you, Dirk.
Okay,
I hope I'll memorize your phone number. All right. Do we actually? Is that a goodbye? Because we have a poem, David.
Oh, I'm waiting for the poem. I didn't know that. I'm glad my computer was stuck and I got that extra information from Dirk. So thank you. It was a happening that was a goodie.
Okay, we'll make things flow, Carol. We'll pass on the information. Yeah.
Well, am I supposed to be reading a poem now?
I hope so.
What? Yeah. Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
This is called The Lamentation of the Old Pensioner by some guy named Yates. Although I shelter from the rain under a broken tree, my chair was nearest to the fire in every company that talked of love or politics ere time transfigured me. Though lads are making pikes again for some conspiracy and crazy rascals rage their fill at human tyranny, my contemplations are of time that has transfigured me. There's not a woman turns her face upon a broken tree, and yet the beauties that I loved are in my memory. I spit into the face of time that has transfigured me.
Hmm.
All right.
He wasn't happy about getting old.
No, it's not for weaklings, and no disrespect to anyone who's weaker than him.
The other part in here, you know, the tree that's the tree that there's a little bit of something to chew on there, I think.
Oh, okay.
It's not, it's got something to chew on there for you. The dark is the light too in this poem. Never forget that.
Well, then I will read you the very, very short headstone citation that they used on his tombstone. That clearly he intended to be used for that purpose, from a long poem called Unter Ben Bulben, a mountain in North Ireland. And that line is, cast a cold eye on life, on death, horsemen pass by.
There you go.
That's that phrase. Yeah. Wow.
Dark is good. In a bad way. It's comfortable.
All
So
right.
get it. Spin away.
Away. Well, thank you all. That's just,
Thank you
I
for the
need to
poem,
shut
David.
down. Harold, you can actually shut this down. I can just, but thank you all. Keep in touch. Good to see you and to connect. And we'll talk 2
He
weeks.
said I can shut it down. I don't know how.
Oh, well, when you close the meeting,
It'll be
if I-
gone.
you will be able to close it all down.
Okay.
So, Dave Blake, we're waving goodbye to an empty space there, but beautiful poem.
All right, you're welcome.
I'll see you in a week or two,
See
I
you.
hope. Yep. All right, Patrick, goodbye. Robert, goodbye. Dave, goodbye. We're it. Okay, tell me how to. This is weird. Shut it down. Okay.
Shut it down, shut it down, shut it down.
Oh, so much. Okay, end meeting for all. And I'm hoping we will have a board meeting, if not next week at 5 p.m. Wednesday, then another date of convenience for us all.